Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss about important and major lakes of the world, which is going to be very helpful for you for the UPSC Prelims examination of this year and even in the following years as well. So, let us try to understand the important lakes across the world. Now, in this series, the first lake that we can discuss is called as Lake Baikal. Lake Baikal is an important lake because, as you can see, it is considered as the deepest lake of the world, somewhere situated near Russia, or we can say somewhere, as you can see from this particular map. This small country here is Mongolia, this you have here Russia, and then here you have the China. So, it is a kind of elongated lake, a longitudinal kind of lake covering an area of about 31,500 square kilometers. If we talk about the kind of lake, what kind of lake it is? So, it is a type of rift lake. Now, rift lake, we know it develops when there is a kind of, suppose it is a landmass, and due to the tectonic movement, the part of landmass is being pulled apart into two different directions. Due to this region, what will happen? The central part of this landmass will have a development of a valley-like structure. This valley is called as the Rift Valley, and due to the melting of the glaciers in nearby areas, this valley has been filled up by water, and that is how you have the formation of Lake Baikal that has happened. Not only it is the deepest lake in the world, also it is the oldest lake of the world. And in terms of area, it is the 7th largest lake in the entire world. Not only that, in terms of volume, it covers or carries almost 22% of the freshwater volume in the world, and thus it is also considered as the largest freshwater lake in the world. If you look at the depth of this lake, it is about 1,642 meter, that is 1.64 kilometer, and we have discussed it is the oldest lake also. So, why we are calling it as oldest lake? Because it is believed that this Lake Baikal has formed somewhere about 25 to 30 million years ago. That is why it is considered as the oldest lake. Not only that, if you look at some other aspects of the Lake Baikal, what we can see is this is your longitudinal Lake Baikal, and from this Lake Baikal you have the origin of a river that is called as Angara river, and Angara river is a tributary of a very important river flowing through the Russian territory, that is especially the eastern part of Russia, that is called as Yenisei river, and then Yenisei river further enters into the Arctic Sea. And apart from that, the major cities that is situated around Lake Baikal, we can see one city is Ulan-Ude, other city is Irkutsk, then we have Krasnoyarsk, which is well known for its oil and natural gas reserves, and as you can see to the south of Lake Baikal, you have the Ulaanbaatar, which is a capital city of Mongolia, which also lies very close to the Lake Baikal. Now, around the Lake Baikal, you have one of the most notable tribe of Russia that is living here. These are called as Buryat tribe. That is why this region sometimes is also collectively referred as Buryatia. UNESCO has classified this Lake Baikal as a World Heritage Site in the natural category somewhere in year 1996, and due to its picturesque location, due to its beauty, and also because of its unique features and characteristics that we have discussed, Lake Baikal sometimes is also referred as Pearl of Siberia. So, these are some important points we have to remember about Lake Baikal. On the negative side, Lake Baikal is presently facing from several problems. One of these problems are high level of pollution that we are observing in the waters of Lake Baikal, and this pollution is largely a result of industrial activity, and around Lake Baikal, as you have discussed, it is having a large volume of fresh water, and here you have the cheap labor that is also available. So, that is why the paper and pulp industries have developed in huge numbers around the Lake Baikal, because paper and pulp industry requires huge volume of water for the production of paper, and that is why they require some fresh water source, and thus Lake Baikal provide that source. But on the negative side, the pollutants being discharged by these industries have significantly caused problems in the water of this lake. Not only that, recently world's first uranium enrichment center also is being developed around the Lake Baikal, which can further increase the pollution, not only normal or general pollution, but even radioactive kind of pollution we can witness in the near future. And third problem that the lake is facing is the threat of invasive algal species. Now, these invasive algal species, as you can see from this particular picture here, they spread at so fast rate that they cover the entire water body in very short period of time. And as these entire algal species cover the surface of water, what happens? The sunlight is not able to enter the water. And if sunlight is not able to enter the water, obviously the dissolved oxygen content, basically what will happen? The photosynthesis, the organisms that are dependent on photosynthesis, the organisms that are dependent on the light, they will start to die out, and as they start to die out, gradually decomposition happens, which takes up oxygen from the water, and dissolved oxygen concentrations start to dip. And as the DO concentration, dissolved oxygen concentration decreases, it causes further loss of the aquatic life. So, this is going to be an impending disaster if corrective measures are not taken fast. So, that is the main things that we have to discuss about the deepest lake of the world, Lake Baikal. Coming to the second lake, that is Aral Sea. Though it is called as sea, it is basically a kind of inland lake, and more precisely Aral Sea is a type of what we can call as an endorheic lake. Endorheic lake basically means a lake that is surrounded by land from all the sides, and also it does not have any outlet either horizontally or vertically. And due to this reason, what happens? There is no place for solute to go out. That means gradually, due to continuous evaporation of water, salt concentration keeps on increasing in such kind of lakes. So, Aral Sea is such kind of lake. If you look at the location of Aral Sea, it is surrounded by countries such as Uzbekistan, it is in the south, Kazakhstan is in the north. So, at the border of Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan is the location of Aral Sea. Once it was the fourth largest lake in the world, but between 1960 to 1997, it has reduced to mere 10% of its original size. That means Aral Sea, this lake is considered to be one of the lakes, one of the water bodies that has dried up at the fastest rate in this particular century. Now, why Aral Sea dried up? The reason is believed to be the government policies of the Soviet Union, because as you can see, actually this is the Aral Sea. As you can see, in 1960, this is the picture that is taken. You can see the volume of water that is filling up this entire sea, and this picture that is taken somewhere in 1995, the water volume has reduced to mere 10%. This entire area where earlier there used to be water is now nothing but a dry desert area. And one of the reasons why Aral Sea has dried up, it is because of construction of dam, which basically limited the flow of water that was brought by two rivers, Sir Darya from the north and Amu Darya river from the south, and the water was diverted to the agricultural fields, largely for the cultivation of cotton. That has led to a disaster in this regions. And as you can see, earlier there used to be ships, now these all ships are stranded in this dry desert areas. So, the former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, he has said that this Aral Sea drying is one of the planet's world's environmental disaster, and UNESCO also has basically put this particular site in the memory of the world register. Memory of the world register basically is a collective we can say document that basically includes all the documentary heritage, all the heritage, man-made heritage or natural heritage of the world for the collective memory in the future. So, that is also this Aral Sea has been included under that. Now, what are the future prospects? Due to the attention given by United Nations, some effort or work is being made to make sure that whatever Aral Sea is left, at least that also does not dry up. So, for this Aral Sea Basin program has been launched by UN body, that is UNDP, United Nations Development Program, and it focuses upon the afforestation to prevent further desertification of this entire area. Not only that, from the economic perspective also, Aral Sea is a very vital region because there is a possibility of oil and gas reserves in this area. So, in future oil and gas exploration kind of activity we can also witness in this Aral Sea. Now, the third water body, which is also considered as the most saline water body of the earth, is Dead Sea. So, Dead Sea, as you can see, first of all, if you look at the location, it is situated at the boundary of Israel in the west and Jordan in the east. It is considered as the lowest point on the continental landmass. That means its elevation is 430 meters. That is not above sea level, it is below sea level. So that is the elevation of Dead Sea, 430 meter below sea level. So lowest point on the continents of the earth. Now, as we have discussed before, it is considered as the most saline water body. That means no other water body on the earth has such a high salt concentration like Dead Sea. Now, what is the salt concentration here? So it is 343 parts per thousand. 343 parts per thousand. What it means? It means that for every 1000 gram of water molecule or water that you have in this water body, 343 grams of salts is present in them. So it is almost, we can consider, understand, 10 times more saline as compared to an average ocean of the earth. Now, Dead Sea also an example of a rift lake. Again, rift lake we have discussed, it forms when the continental landmass is being pulled apart in two different directions, creating a valley like structure. And thus, similarly, the CC divergence, continental divergence is believed to be responsible for development of the Dead Sea. Now, Dead Sea is also facing a similar kind of problem that Aral Sea has faced, as we discussed before, and it also is reducing in its size. We can look at from this particular fact that in year 1930, the area that is occupied by Dead Sea is about 1050 kilometers, square kilometers, while by year 1970 it has reduced to merely 605 kilometers. That means almost reduced, we can say, by 40% of its total area. And especially since 1960, rapid shrinking is being observed in this water body, and to make sure that the Dead Sea does not meet the same fate like Aral Sea, the government in these regions has initiated a project that is called as Dead Sea Water Conveyance Pipeline Project. Actually, if you look at the map of this region, let us suppose here you have the Dead Sea. So if you go further to the south, and here you have the Sinai Peninsula, and then further here you have the Red Sea, and Red Sea is open to the Indian Ocean from one side. So this Dead Sea water conveyance pipeline, basically it aims to transfer water from the Red Sea region to the Dead Sea region, so that water volume can be maintained in this particular lake or this particular sea. So that is the project that has been commissioned here. Now, coming next to the continent of North America, where we have 5 lakes that are collectively referred as the Great Lakes. Now, Great Lakes, as you can see from this particular diagram, is made up of first lake, that is in the west, Lake Superior. Lake Superior is also considered as the largest continental lake of the world, covering an area of 82,000 square kilometers. Now, if you remember in the beginning, we have discussed about Lake Baikal. Lake Baikal covers about 31,000 of square kilometer of area. So it is almost 2.5 times larger than that particular lake. Then further to the south, we have Lake Michigan. Then further east, we have Lake Huron. Then further we have Lake Erie, and the easternmost lake, which is also a province of Canada, the name of the province of Canada, that is Lake Ontario. So these 5 lakes collectively make up Great Lakes, and as you can see from this particular map here, these lakes also form a border between the United States of America in the south and Canada in the north. So this you can see here. This basically, the upper part, this is your Canada and this is your United States. So the lakes, such as especially we talk about Lake Superior, Lake Huron, Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, these are the lakes through which the international border between US and Canada passes through. Now, some important facts if you try to understand about these lakes. So first is that these lakes are example of glacial lake. Glacial lake that has formed somewhere around 14,000 years ago. Basically, we have discussed that yesterday also when you talk about the major lakes of India, that when glaciers start to retreat back due to the forces of erosion, they cause scouring of the bed, glacial bed. And when the glacial bed are scoured, a kind of depression develops, and as the glacial is continuously melting, the snow melt of the glacial causes this depression to be filled up by water, leading to formation of glacial lakes. And many glacial lakes you will see in the Himalayas also, in the Tibetan plateau also. So similarly, here also we have formation of these glacial lakes. Now, These Great Lakes basically serve as a very important mode of transportation for the people and economy here, because as you can clearly see from the Great Lakes, all these 5 lakes are internally connected by waterways, and thus further after this it is connected by a St. Lawrence River that flows through the territory of Canada, and from St. Lawrence River near the Gulf of St. Lawrence, then you will have outlet. From there the ships can go into the Atlantic Ocean, and then the trading can also be basically supported by this formation of this St. Lawrence River and Seaway. So that is why this area is one of the major industrial hub of both US and Canada, or basically we can say North America. Not only that, it is on these Great Lakes, one of the most notable, picturesque, beautiful and most what we can say touristy place of North America, that is Niagara Falls, is also situated here. And Niagara Falls serve as one of the major mode of hydroelectricity generation that also further supports the industries that are located in the Great Lake region. If you look at the importance of Great Lakes from the economic point of view, first of all, as these are one of the largest freshwater body of the earth, their importance in agriculture can especially be highlighted, and due to the availability of fresh water throughout the year, in this area you have cultivation of numerous crops, the major crops being corn, maize, soybean, as well as the cultivation of wheat is being done. Not only that, around this Great Lakes region you will find major minerals, especially iron ore and limestone. And nearby also you have Appalachian Mountain, and in Appalachian Mountain you can easily find coal reserves. So since iron ore, limestone, coal all are available around the same areas, it has led to development or flourishing of iron and steel industry in this region. So Great Lake Belt is the largest iron steel producing belt of North America. This is also a very important point you should keep in mind. And as we have discussed, since lakes are connected to each other and further to the St. Lawrence River and Seaway, it also serve as a inland waterway transportation, mode of inland waterway transportation, which is the cheapest mode of transportation. Throughout the entire year, ships keep on plying through this Great Lakes, between the Great Lakes, carrying numerous goods and finished goods, raw material from one part of North America to the other part of North America. So these are some significant point about the Great Lakes. Next, we can turn our gaze to the continent of Africa, and in the continent of Africa you have number of lakes, especially on the eastern part of Africa, which are called as Rift Valley lakes. Now you know that what are Rift Valley lakes? The lake that form due to continental divergence due to formation of a Rift Valley. So same way, these lakes are also a result of CC divergence, and it is an example of neotectonics. Neotectonics means it is the tectonic plate movement which is going on even now, and it is one of the recent tectonic plate movement or plate tectonics that the earth is witnessing. And basically the eastern Africa, that is from Ethiopia in the north to Malawi in the south, that is the overall extent of these lakes, as you can clearly see from this map here. Now let us look at some of the important lakes that you will find in the Rift Valley Lake or Rift Valley of Africa. So first of all, as you can see, you have one of the largest lake of Africa, that is Lake Victoria, second largest freshwater lake in the world. And Lake Victoria shares a border with 3 countries, Tanzania to the south, Kenya to the east, and Uganda to the north. Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania. And Lake Victoria is also source of one of the streams of the longest river of the world, that is River Nile. Further, if you come to south, you have again a longitudinal lake, as you can see from here. This is Lake Tanganyika, and Lake Tanganyika is actually the longest freshwater lake in the world, with a total length of about 676 kilometers. And then further to the south in the country called as Malawi, so between Malawi, Mozambique and Tanzania, again it is a lake that is spread over 3 countries, that is called as Lake Malawi. Lake Malawi is considered as the having richest freshwater fauna in the world, and it is due to this region the World Wildlife Fund has included this particular lake in a global 200 priority ecoregion for conservation, because it supports abundant fauna, abundant faunal species, and that is why its preservation and protection is very, very vital for the ecosystem and for the environment and biodiversity. Coming further to the Iran, we have again the largest inland body of water on the earth. It is called as Caspian Sea. If you look at the expanse of Caspian Sea, the length and width is about 1200 into 320 kilometers, covering an area of almost 371,000 square kilometers. Again, if you compare it with Lake Baikal, it is almost 11 times greater in size from the Lake Baikal compared to Lake Baikal. If you look at the map here, Caspian Sea is spread over many countries. Iran in the south, Turkmenistan in the east, Kazakhstan in the northeast, Russia in the northwest, Azerbaijan in the west. So, Russia, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Iran and Azerbaijan. These are the major countries that forms the border of the Caspian Sea. Again, these kind of questions are something that is very frequently asked in UPSC Prelims, that they will give you a water body and will ask that which of the countries are surrounding this water bodies. So, these are the facts that you have to keep in mind. Now, Caspian Sea interestingly is believed by geographers to be remnant of Tethys Sea. We know that we knew this in earlier time. The entire landmass on the earth was split into two landmasses. Northern landmass was called as Laurasia and southern landmass was called as Gondwana land, and this landmass formed due to splitting of a supercontinent Pangaea, and thus between these two landmasses there was a narrow sea that is called as Tethys Sea, and thus when the components of Gondwana land, the landmasses of Gondwana land start to move toward Laurasia, for example, Africa moved toward Eurasia, then you have India moved toward Eurasia, then you have the Arabian plate that moved toward Eurasia. So, for a longer distance, what happened? Tethys Sea became enclosed and it disappeared. However, here and there we can see the remnants of this sea, and Caspian Sea is one of these remnants. And if you look at the seabed of the sea, it is having a basaltic rock that clearly proves that the seabed of the sea has formed due to the eruption of magma, that is basic magma that is erupted here due to the volcanic activity. Apart from these other points that we can understand, that the age of Caspian Sea, it is believed that somewhere about 5.5 million years ago there has been upliftment of this area that led to formation of this depression, and then water got collected here, and that is why it became a kind of landlocked region. Now, economically this also is a very important area, because it is believed that total 1.9% of total global output as far as the natural gas is concerned is basically limited in this area, and that is why, as you can see from this particular map, numerous pipelines are there, natural gas pipelines has been constructed through this entire Caspian Sea region. Russia-Iran pipeline, then we have Turkmenistan, Pakistan, Afghanistan, India pipeline, Tapi pipeline is called, Kazakhstan, China pipeline, Baku-Chehan pipeline, then we have Chechen bypass, and numerous pipeline going from Central Asia to Russia to eastern part of Asia and even to the European region. Overall, if you talk about Caspian Sea, there is not a lot of rivers that is bringing water here. The three main rivers, that is Volga river, Ural river and Terek river. These are the three rivers that contribute 88% of the total annual water volume that is flowing to the Caspian Sea. So, name of these rivers you should keep in mind, that is Volga, Ural and river Terek. Coming to the next lake, we have Ojos del Salado. Now, Ojos del Salado is believed to be the world's highest lake, and it is not only the world's highest lake, it is also world's highest dormant volcano. That means we can understand that this lake is what kind of lake? It is an example of volcanic lake. The types of lake we already have discussed yesterday when we talk about the major lakes in India. The altitude or height at which this lake is situated, as you can see here, it is 6,390 meters, that is roughly 21,000 feet from the sea level, and lake is on the eastern face of the mountain, and it's only 100 meters in diameter. The size of lake is not very big, it is a small lake but the highest lake. Still, it's the highest pool of water that exists on the planet Earth, and that is what makes this lake unique in nature. The location of this lake, if you look from this map here, it is situated somewhere here. So, on the eastern side you have Argentina, and on the western side this is a South American country, that is Chile. So, at the border of Chile and Argentina, that is where the Ojos del Salado lake is located. The another lake we can talk about is a lake which was in news, that is called as Lake Montbel. Now, Lake Montbel is a reservoir basically that is located somewhere 4 kilometers to the west of Chalab of the southwestern region of France. Now, the flooded hillside are still evident when the water level drops, revealing tree stumps and the thick clay that is called as mud. What does it mean? It means that actually the lake which occupies the region here today, it was formed due to the landslide that has happened in this area. An entire hill basically has been flooded by water, forming this particular lake. And on hot, quite summer days, the water takes on beautiful turquoise color, which is very photogenic, as you can see from the map here. The mountain that you see surrounding this lake is one of the most important mountains of Europe, which is called as Pyrenees mountain, and these are visible in the background, as you can see from the picture here. Now, why this lake was in news? Because currently the lake is only at about 28% of its capacity. The water level of these lakes are less than half of what is usual for the time of the year, especially summer time of the year. So, the postcard landscape has largely turned into a muddy wasteland, as you can see from this image here, with the boats left stranded on the banks here and there, and France's driest winter in 64 years kept the lake from the filling up. So, in other way, geographers and geologists believe that the drying of this lake is another example or evidence of the climate change phenomena that is happening, which is causing depletion of water level all across the Europe, and basically we can say all across the earth as well, and numerous examples we have discussed today itself. Now, another very interesting lake that we can talk about is Lake Vostok. Lake Vostok is unique because it is situated in the 7th continent of the world, that is Antarctica, and Antarctica has nearly 400 subglacial lakes. Subglacial means that the lakes are not present on the surface. Obviously, we know that it is not possible because the temperature is below 0 degrees Celsius, so everything will be frozen. So, subglacial means the lake, the water body situated below the glaciers. But out of these 400 subglacial lakes in Antarctica, Lake Vostok is the largest and also the deepest lake of Antarctica. This lake is found at the southern pole of cold. Pole of cold is a term that is used to refer either Arctic or Antarctic. So, we have north pole of cold and the south pole of cold. What is pole of cold? Pole of cold basically is used to refer to an area which has recorded minimum temperature in the Earth's history. So, found at the southern pole of cold. Now, why the lake is called as Vostok? From where it derives its name? So, the answer is actually it is the research station of Russia, that is Vostok, is situated on this lake. It actually sits on the frozen surface of this lake, as you can see from there. This is the research station, this is the glacial bed, and below the glacial bed you have the subglacial lake. Now, this freshwater lake surface begins somewhere about 4,000 meters, that is 4 kilometers below the ice level. Now, Russia selected this site because of its potential for ice core drilling and the study of magnetometry that is possible here. To understand the location of this lake and understand this how the lake is found here, we can see this. You can see this is the ice that is covering the entire Antarctica. This ice layer itself is 2,000 meter thick, and below this ice again you go further 2,000 meters, and then here you can see at the bottom you have the lake that you can see from here there. We have numerous streams. This is the Lake Vostok, as you can see, and numerous stream that is flowing below the ice glacial level. Aside from extreme depth below sea level, lake is also located at the site of the coldest recorded natural temperature, as we discussed before, on the earth. And what was this temperature value? It is minus 89.2 degrees Celsius. That is why this area is referred as South Pole of Cold, as discussed before. Next interesting lake that we can talk about is Laguna Colorada. Laguna Colorada basically means red lagoon. Now, it is a shallow salt lake situated in the southwest of the Altiplano. Altiplano is basically a plateau in the Bolivia, which is a country in South America, and basically this plateau has formed due to formation of Andes mountain. So from the west you have Andes mountain, and then as you move to the east you have a plateau landmass, and that is called as Altiplano. So in the southwestern part of this Altiplano, if you look at this map here, this is the location of your Laguna Colorada. This entire range you can see is Andes mountain range. Here you have the Altiplano, and then here you have this lake within Eduardo Avarao Andean Fauna National Reserve, and it is also close to border with the Chile. Chile is a longitudinal country here on the western coast of South America. I am sure you must be knowing about that. Now, what makes this lake unique? As you can see from the picture of this lake, the water of the lake looks reddish in color, and between this reddish color water you can see there is a white landmass that looks whitish in color. White is so because the lake contains islands. These all white landmass you are seeing here are basically an island within the lake, which is called as Borax Island. Now, Borax Island, because obviously here you will find high concentration of borax, and borax is white in color, that provides white color to the island, which contrasts with the reddish color of the water. Now, why the water color is reddish in nature here? So, it is because of the red sediments and the pigmentations of the algal species that is found in this particular lake. So, red colored lake surrounded by white colored island, that is a unique characteristic here. If you take a look at the faunal diversity of this region, James flamingos are the most important bird species which are found in these areas. They are abundant species, and as you can see from this picture here, they are occupying the largest region of this particular lagoon. It is also possible to find Andean and Chilean flamingos, but in lesser quantities. So, James flamingos are found in highest number, then Andean and Chilean flamingo you can also found in this laguna or this lake. Then coming to the Asia, in the Sumatra island of Indonesia, we have world's largest crater lake, that is called as Lake Toba. Lake Toba is a large natural lake in the northern part of Sumatra, and it occupies the caldera of a super volcano. Now, all of you must have heard about volcano. This is somehow a volcano looks like. This is on the upper side you have the vent through which eruption happens, and then the magma moves through the volcanic pipe. So, what is a super volcano? Super volcanoes are such kind of volcanoes whose value on volcanic explosivity index is highest, that is 8. What it means? It means that the amount of discharge that happens through such kind of volcanic eruption is humongous in nature. No such volcano erupts in such a manner that is closer to even the super volcano. So, Lake Toba has formed in the super volcano in the caldera. Now, caldera is basically a large depression that develops at the top part of a volcano due to the collapse of the upper part of volcanic structure as the magma chambers start to empties out. So, that is why it is the world's largest crater lake, as well as being the largest lake in the entire Southeast Asia, and also one of the deepest lake in the world. This we can understand from the dimension of this lake. The length is almost 100 kilometers, width is 30 kilometers, and depth is about 505 meters. And this is actually the photograph, as you can see, of this particular lake. This is lake surface. All around you can see mountain, that is a volcanic mountain, and the volcanic mountain, the upper part has collapsed, forming this depression where the rainwater has filled up itself. So, this is the Lake Toba in Sumatra. Now, other interesting point what you can understand about Lake Toba is that it is suggested by the geographers that the eruption that has led to formation of this caldera or formation of this volcanic crater led to a volcanic winter in the world. Volcanic winter means the amount of ash, dust particles, the volcanic this core ashes, they were generated in such a huge volume that they covered the entire earth surface for many long time period. And due to this, what happened? The sunlight is not able to reach the earth surface. So, if sunlight is not able to reach the earth surface, what will happen? The earth will start to cool down, and that is what we call as volcanic winter. This caused a decline of temperature somewhere between 3 to 5 degrees Celsius in the lower latitudes and 15 degrees Celsius in the higher latitudes. Additional studies also shows, in the beginning I told you that the volcanic explosivity index, the value of Lake Toba was 8, that is highest, and the amount of the dust particle that erupted was erupting at such a high intensity that some of these remains of these ash particles are found as far as in the Lake Malawi of East Africa. To give you idea, Lake Toba is in Indonesia here, that is on the easternmost side of Indian Ocean, and Lake Malawi is on the westernmost side of Indian Ocean. The distance between Africa and Indonesia is about 8,900 kilometers. So the volcanic material that was discharged by this eruption traveled almost 8,000 kilometers, and that is why you can find the evidences deposition in the Malawi Lake of East Africa. So that is the kind of powerful volcanic eruption that has happened here. That is why we term it as a super volcano. Next lake that we have to talk about is Lake Kariba. Lake Kariba is important because it is world's largest artificial lake and reservoir if you calculate it from volume or by volume. Area wise, it covers about 5,580 square kilometers with a storage capacity of 185 cubic kilometer. Lake Kariba was filled between 1958 to 1963 because a dam has been constructed on a river. This dam is called as Kariba Dam, and this river is Zambezi River. So due to the construction of this dam, a reservoir has developed here due to collection of water in this area. This reservoir is called as Kariba Lake. If you look at the location, again it is kind of longitudinal lake that is formed between two countries. We have Zimbabwe in the east and you have Zambia in the west. So between Zimbabwe and Zambia, that is the location of Lake Kariba. Then the dimension of lake is about 223 kilometers, that is the length here, and 40 kilometers, that is the width of this particular lake. Now Lake Kariba is a region which also is known for what we have discussed yesterday is RIS event. RIS event means reservoir induced seismicity. So the enormous mass of water is believed to have caused an induced seismicity, that is earthquake, in the seismically active region where the lake has formed. And over 20 earthquakes, that is greater than 5 magnitude on the Richter scale, have been recorded here. So basically what happens, whenever a reservoir is created or constructed, the water volume increases, and this increased water level causes tremendous amount of pressure on the faults, that is a break in the rocks that is situated on the bottom of the lake or the bottom of the dam. And this pressure lubricates the faults because the water start to seep through these cracks and gaps and decreases the friction of the rock surfaces beneath, causing the rocks to slip relative to each other. And the slippage of the rocks is responsible for the earthquake, and such kind of earthquake are referred as reservoir induced seismicity or RIS earthquake. Again, in the continent of Africa, Lake Volta is again a lake that is the largest artificial reservoir in the world based on surface area. We have discussed the last one is the largest artificial reservoir based on the volume, and this is the largest artificial reservoir based on the surface area, and as you can see it covers an area of almost 8,500 square kilometer. This Lake Volta is formed due to construction of a dam called as Akosombo Dam here, as you can see from here. This Akosombo Dam is a dam that has been constructed in a country called as Ghana, and the river that flows through this dam is called as two rivers we are having, the White Volta River and the Black Volta River. So the entire lake is situated within the territory of Ghana itself. Then the next lake is Lake Urmia, about which question has been asked earlier in UPSC also, that Lake Urmia is again a type of endorheic salt lake in the mountains of northwest. Endorheic, what is the meaning of endorheic? We already have discussed in the beginning of the video. Situated in the mountains of northwest Iran. Situated in the mountains of northwest Iran between the cities of Tabriz and Urmia. Location, as you can see clearly from the map here, this is the Iran. On the northern side we just have discussed, you have the Caspian Sea, and then this is in the northwestern part of Iran, you have this lake, that is Lake Urmia, between the well known cities of Tabriz and Urmia. Now Lake Urmia is also facing similar kind of problem like Aral Sea. It began shrinking in 1995 due to combination of factors, largely the major factors being the prolonged drought that has happened in these areas, and also the water is continuously being extracted from this area for farming purposes, agricultural purposes, as well as due to construction of the dams. Now Urmia is one of the largest hypersaline or super salty lakes in the world, and the salinity level here, hypersaline means salinity is greater than 200 parts per thousand. Again, what it means, the salt deposit, salt content of the water, 200 grams of salt will find in the 1000 grams of water here. It has suffered chronic dry spells, heat waves for years, which are expected to worsen with the impact of climate change. So in the future, we can expect the water volume of Urmia will keep on declining. To give you an idea about how this lake has shrunk, again you can compare two photos. The first photo, the satellite picture that was taken in 2005, you can see the entire Lake Urmia is filled up with water. And this photo is taken in 2015, you can see only a small part, the volume of water is only restricted to the northern part, and even the water volume is nowhere close to what it was a decade ago. So water volume has shrunk significantly, and large part of lake, as you can see, the central and southern part remains dry today. It has become a kind of desert land, arid land. And this is important because Urmia Lake is an important ecosystem, because it is acting as a key stopping point for the migratory birds that are traveling from Russia, Siberia to the Central Asia to Africa, and also they are home to an endemic shrimp as well as other underwater species. The most notable shrimp species which is endemic to this area is called as Artemia, and Artemia is important because the shrimp serve as a food source for migratory bird such as flamingos that pass through this particular area. So that is why conservation of this lake is very important for the, not only for the people who are living around these areas, but also for the preservation and conservation of biodiversity. So these were the major lakes that you need to prepare for the UPSC Prelims examination. We have covered all the major lakes of the world, including greatest lake, largest lake, deepest lake, the lakes that are suffering from severe problems, as well as the lakes which have been news in recent times as well. Thank you very much.